It's hard to believe it's happening here in America, but 69 children were forced into prostitution. Now they've been saved during Operation Cross Country 5. The FBI and local law enforcement agencies have arrested more than 800 suspects in these sex slavery cases, including 99 pimps. This major bust took the cooperation of hundreds of agencies across 40 cities. Richard Louie has a closer look at this devastating reality. It is absolutely unbelievable.
And you really said it best there, Chris. We are talking about U.S. citizens. We are talking about kids in the United States. 69 were saved, which brings the number to 1,200 saved by the government task force agency since 2003. But unfortunately, this is a small dent. Experts estimating some 230,000 U.S. kids are at risk of being exploited as sex slaves in this country. If you were to take every kid in 400 public middle schools, that's how many kids we're talking about. Okay, this is also big money. $32 billion worldwide for traffickers selling and trading humans into sex or labor slavery. That's the size of the market. On a micro level, to give you an example, a pimp in D.C., for instance, with 3 girls could make over $500,000 a year in cash. Now, this challenge for law enforcement is that some kids are moved every few weeks, making it difficult for parents to try to track down their daughters or sons. And when law enforcement show up, it's the house mother and the girls that are at the location, not the ringleaders or the pimps, you know, the ones who do the trade and run the infrastructure. Now, girls do come forward on their own, but they don't always get the support they need because they are seen as just a prostitute. So the girls psychologically start to see their captor, who has repeatedly raped them, to break them in, as they call it, as a necessary friend. And local NGOs in recent years, Chris, have raised millions to stop this kid meat market, often by addressing demand. So that's a positive development. What experts tell me now, that is more safe houses and shelters are needed to get these kid sex slaves away from the pimps and into nurturing environments. Hopefully.
Right. Thank you very much, Richard. Appreciate it. Kristen Anderson is the director of the Case Analysis Division for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Michelle Sagona is an investigative crime reporter. Kristen, let me start with you. How do these pimps get their hands on these little kids?
Well, you know, at the National Center, we have about 80% of our missing children cases are runaways, what we call endangered runaways. And these are the kids that are at greatest risk. They're out on the street, they don't have resources, they don't have anyone to turn to in terms of guardians for food, shelter, anything. And these pimps, these offenders will prey on these children's needs for love and support and bring them in and start to care and nurture them or make them feel that that's what they're doing.
And I know in this case, some of these kids were 13 and younger. When we tend to think of runaways, we don't think of them as being that young. Is that at all typical, Kristen?
Yes, actually, the average age of entry into the life of prostitution is 12 to 13 years old, and it's not unusual to find children younger than that.
My goodness. Michelle, let's talk about this case in particular as I've been reading about it. I mean, the stories are just so terrible. Little kids forced to have sex everywhere from random apartment complexes to a men's room in a shopping mall. What else can you tell us about what the FBI and all these local agencies found?
Well, the FBI, they started this task force in 2003. It's the Innocence Lost Initiative. They have 39 different task forces across the country, which really team up with a lot of the local agencies, Chris. And they go in, and now, although the task forces with the FBI, they're doing a great job and they're combating this on a daily basis, they really set up a lot of these operations, you know, a few times a year. So in this particular case, this is what they did with these local agencies. And they go in and they figure out where the target problems are, whether it's a motel, maybe it's a truck stop, maybe it's a casino, maybe it's a seedy motel, maybe it's on the internet. And they figure out that, and they go in and they rescue these children, and then they pick up the pimps. They sit down at a table because a lot of these charges are just local or they're state charges, and they see if they can advance them to a federal level. If they can, that's where a lot of the major information comes from, which leads to the bigger takedowns of operations, which then in turn, you know, it results in even more arrests and even more takedowns. But the problem here, Chris, is that once these girls are rescued, there really isn't a lot of resources for them. A lot of these are throwaway children. They're children that they're beyond runaways. They're children that their parents don't want them. They don't have anywhere to go. And there really aren't a lot of nonprofits out there. There are a few, but there aren't a lot to help them.
Yeah, Kristen, talk to us a little bit about the reentry for these kids, because obviously if they ran away, there were some problems in the home to begin with.
Well, that's right. They come from difficult circumstances in many cases. Not in all cases. We do see some middle-income suburban kids that sometimes get lured into this, maybe online. But still, a lot of times these kids are staying in the prostitution life because it's better than, at least in their eyes, what they may have to return to.
Yeah, just to hear the phrase throwaway children is enough to make you sick, but it is good to see that they're putting some of these criminals where they belong, and hopefully they'll be behind bars and not terrorize kids for a very long time. Kristen Anderson, thank you for all the good work you do. Michelle, it's always great having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
8 years ago, threatened with